Get into that God consciousness, there is an expansion and a feeling of no time, no space, so you really do lose track of time. And you'll find that as you expand and you get into that God space, that time will have a whole different meaning for you. You ready? Well, welcome back from the break. And so we want to start into a different level of consciousness called code consciousness.
The consciousness of the codes.
Our code beings of consciousness.
So when you see these amazing codes, it's always good to remember and recognize that they are consciousness and that they are alive. It's really easy when you have a piece of paper to just think of it as a thing, to look at it as a two-dimensional image. But it's actually a huge consciousness, and this is how we perceive it here in 3D, right? But each and every one of these has a consciousness in and of itself that's unique, that is so willing to co-create and play with us. Okay, so what we have here are the high Veca codes. These were introduced back in the Introduction to Kathara Level 2 in the Kathara 1 manual. So we're going to go through these a little bit, and then I'll show you something that I used to do at home to bring in more of that consciousness, more of the fun aspect, because I really believe the more fun you have, the more frequency you can bring in, right? So we'll move on here to our Veca code, and this is called Maharata Mueva. It's the Mueva code, okay? And this corresponds to your right foot when we do an induction, right? And this is the Triveka code, or the Hasha, and its tone is Ki Rashe Hasha. And it corresponds to the left foot. Okay, so we've got the right foot and the left foot. And now we have the Kuveka code called the Shardeza, and its sound tone is Ku Shardeza. This corresponds to the Azure. This is the one I was also saying helps to release Jehovian seals in the body. Always a good thing to do. And then we have the Daveka code, or Drureja, and it's Da Drureja for the sound tone. And this corresponds to the Iumbi point. And then we have the Ra Ecka. It's called the Ecka. Its sound tone is Ra Ecka. And it corresponds to the tailbone. And then we have the Crown Veka, the Akasha. And its sound tone is Uma E Treina E Ekasha. And that corresponds to the third eye. So, what we're going to do, if you're game, now we don't have codes for you all to put on, so you're going to have to use your powers of imagination, your powers of creative visualization, and being able to direct the energies appropriately. And we're going to, as Mel is going to show us how it's sang, we're going to do the right foot, the left foot through visualization, the Azure, the Iumbi, the tailbone, and then the third eye.
But one thing you want to have within your consciousness as you connect with the consciousness is that you're connecting with your Christic consciousness through the Veka code. You're connecting with the Kirashe, the light fields, with the Triveka code. And this is the first level, the second level, and the third levels of the sound fields. And so when you have like Mueva, Maharata, D12, right? Maharata Mueva, Ki Rashe Hasha. So the name of that code is Hasha, but Ki Rashe shows you that it's connecting with the Ki Rashe, which is your light fields. Ku Shardeja, Da Shudeja, Ra Eka. So Ku Da Ra, the Kundare. So that's the consciousness that you are connecting with, is all the way up from your Christic consciousness all the way back to the sound fields of Source. And then of course the Ecka Sha, which it's the Ek and the Ka and the Sha up sound tones of an area up near Source. So we're going to go through the universal song for the Veca code song, and a song speaker 2 had said that you go up and down in fourths. And what's a fourth? Well, how I remembered it is the song is, here comes the bride. So here comes the bride, dun dun. So that's how I always remember how to get to that fourth. So it would, Mahadra mueva, kira she hasha, kushar deja dadru eja ra eka. Okay, and that's going up and down by fourths.
She's going to lead us through it, just so you know.
Okay, so go ahead and follow me, and then we'll speed up. Mahadra mueva, kira she hasha, kushar deja dadru eja ra eka. And then Umai treinae ekasha. Okay, so before we start this, remember that pillar of sound light within you. Okay, that goes all the way up to God's source, all the way down to Earth, the core.
Maharic shield.
And down through the Maharic shield. And but it's the pillar that goes all the way up. And because we want to ground ourselves also into the here and now. And so feel that consciousness of the Mahadra, which is your Maharic shield consciousness. You want to feel the consciousness of the light fields and the sound fields, because that's what you're bringing in when you're singing the high Veca song, along with activating those parts within your shields that because what they are keys to some of the gates. So, and when we talk about going through gates, it's not only external, but it's internal, because we have whatever on the outside is also within us. Okay, so we have those gates on the inside, and by opening those gates, it allows us to expand more into the fullness of our greatness, of that divine self. So I'll start that a little bit lower. Okay. Mahadra mueva, kira she hasha, kushar deja dadru eja ra eka, umai treinae ekasha. Okay, and that started, and we usually start with the akasha, but I wanted you to get the sound tones. So let's start with the Uma Etre Ina E Ekasha, go through the high Veca song, and then finish with the Uma Etre Ina E. Okay. Uma Etre Ina E Ekasha. Uma Etre Ina E Ekasha. One more time. Uma I think I led you astray a little bit. I lost my ratio there. Mahadra mueva, kira she hasha, kushar deja dadru eja ra eka, umai treinae ekasha. Whenever you sing the names or say the names of the codes, what you are doing is actually saying hello consciousness of the Kirishe Hasha, the Dadrureja. You're saying hello, and you're knocking on the door and bringing more of the frequency of that code into your own shields.
So we have the IHEA code where we do the magic words of co-creation, which is in your handout. if you want to get your handout out. Think about something that you would like to co-create. Does everybody have that? It's towards the back. Thank you. It's page 9.
You do serious? I'll hold it while you do it. This is just the top 3, right? Just what we were doing today.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those Suriyas are interesting because Suriyas are a series of movements we were given in the Dance for program. I should put it. Suriyas were a series of movements we were given in the Dance 4 program for sculpting consciousness. We were to sculpt because when you're moving and you're singing, you're also building sound pillars, essentially sound-like pillars, and they're called siyurs. And they're pillars of consciousness, which means you can actually build the pillars and then gently come out from under them and use them as a meditation spot. And you have, and these are movement seer as opposed to sitting down and that's say singing, which is then considered a sitting seer. And but this is the first time when Speaker One actually talked about sculpting consciousness. That using movement and sound you could actually create. So as we sing this, you can, what do you want to co-create in your life? And holding that picture in your mind as you expand into that pillar of sound light and singing the magic words of co-creation and also if you want to doing the movements. And the movements also have to do with activating parts of your consciousness fields that allow you to travel through time-space. 12 rounds of the magic words.
Is there anybody else that knows the seers?
Carrie does, doesn't she?
Suriyas?
The Suriyas?
All right. That's okay.
I will try. I haven't done them for a while. So.
Does everybody have their page?
Yep. Okay. That seals the pillar so that you can gently step out from underneath.
So think about what you just created. You've created a pillar of sound, which you just sculpted with your intention. And as Mel said, you want to gently step aside and allow it to stay there and manifest. So I'm going to ask mine to move a little bit to the side so I don't walk into it all the time. Do you want to do that or do you want me? I'll go do it. So if you want to go to your page for the Sonic Kemelohati, we are going to do that next. And when we do the Sonic Kemelohati, we use the Ligeia code and the Ur-Manu, which is Veca code 7 and 10. And we're waiting. Still waiting.
Well, it's not in slideshow view, so.
All right. Just a little technical difficulties. Okay, so.
Not difficulties. Technical
challenges.
Yes.
Nothing that we couldn't handle.
Yes.
Technical adventures. Technical opportunities. Okay, so this is the Ligeia code on the left, and this is the Ora Manu on the right. And we use these two codes when we sing the Sonic Kemelohati to bring in the frequencies. Okay, so I know that some of you will need to look at your sheets, and that's fine. You can just inhale, take a moment and inhale and bring the combination of the two consciousness codes into your fields. And Mel will lead us through the Sonic Kemelohati.
Once was a night of a faraway dream. Once was a night when the candle fire burned. Once was a night when the nightingales sing. Once was a night when the breezes rose high. Once on a day when the rivers flowed with sorrow, once on this day worlds were gone. But today, in this moment, in the heat of the fire, brings a long aching dream of life returned from the fire. Oh, come here, new life reborn. Come, come, rise from the waters. Come, come, rise from the sea. Reach forth, heart of the lion, bringing out from the ancient land of destiny. Once were a peoples pure and of innocence. Once were a peoples loving and free. Once were a peoples alive with eternal life. Once were a peoples a high lay in victory. Once came a wind dark and cold from the lowly places. Once came a spawn of the dark fallen sun. Once when the rays of the demons spread suffering, once stricken the high lay were done. But today, in this moment, in the warmth of the sun, rise along, hidden people of the gold and silver one. Oh, come near, high lay reborn. Come, come, rise from the dreamlands. Come, come, rise from memory. Reach forth, children of a higher lake. Camelot away, see where the golden portals call. Now in a dream all the worlds that had gone away. Now in a dream walking forth to the dawn. Here in this dream reaching forth to the universe and call to the port of your home. Come, come, open the doorways. Come, come, let us be free. Here now we give up our life to thee, the home and so long for, sacred Cameloti.
Somebody call me? No?
No, some of them wanted to do the activation.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Etta hey etta le hashadema. Etta hey etta hima hashadei. Tres hane tu etta de amorea. Dunethru marahena ishura Cameloti. And close your eyes and just imagine all those locks and doorways and portals inside you, in your shields, are now coming away. Imagine the doors being open, anything chained being unchained, and expand in that pillar of consciousness within and as the pillar, and become the gateway, the portal open to all the source consciousness that can flow in now.
And just a little side note, when we sing about the El Hayale, we are talking about a group of Iyani that came back into incarnation to keep the Grail races alive. So that's what we are here, right? We are the El Hayale. And when we talk about Camelot, it's a special temple. And they call it Camelot there, we call it Camelot. So just wanted you to have a little understanding. And when we talk about the gold and silver one, we're talking about the D8 and the pale silver and the pale yellow gold frequencies. Okay? Okay, now this is the Rushaya, and we have another little flame there. So I'll walk over there and take care of that. And what this is Veca code 8 and Veca code 11. The Rushaya is Veca code 8. The Thunamanu is Veca code 11. And together they create the monadic code. Okay, and what that basically was, it was a lot of things that we're not going to go into right now, but if you're interested in it, was in Dance for Freedom, which was France 2002 workshop. But basically it was to initiate the activation of Veca code 12. Okay, so just wanted to give you that information. So just take a moment, connect with the consciousness of the Rushaya.
And feel how it feels. Feel that feeling of the consciousness. Feel the aliveness.
Right. Feel the joy. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And we'll move on to the next one, which is the Shahaya code. Absolutely beautiful, amazing rendition of Merkaba. So just take a moment and breathe the frequencies in of the Shahaya, which is a prerequisite to lotus arc breathing. So for those of you who know what that is, feel free to activate your lotus arcs. Just breathe them in, 6-point breathing. Feel the arcs going up, down, in and out, breathing in the frequencies of the Shahaya. For those of you who don't know what lotus breathing is, it was brought in 2003 in Paxos at the 100-year electrical peak called Kathara. And you can see it there. You can also see it in Kathara 2-3, where we activate lotus breathing as well to bring in the Kathara 2-3 frequencies. And now we have the Thunamanu. This was a blood crystal code. When this originally came out, this was for clearing fluids. Not only, water and fluids like that, but also fluids in the body. And there's a specific way that this is done as well. This is in the Dance for Freedom program. You work it with the Akasha together. But for our purposes here, we're just going to take a moment to connect with the consciousness of the code and bring in the frequencies.
And if you happen to have this in your set of Veca codes, you can actually use it at home to put like your water pitcher on.
Okay, feel that moving through your bloodstream? Exactly. And so we'll move on. I actually love this one because that center point is a question mark, right? You can put what you choose to manifest in the center there, and it will amplify. This particular consciousness will amplify whatever you put in the center of the code. So we have the Akasha in the center of the code. All right, so just take a moment and breathe in the frequencies of the Akasha and feel it amplifying throughout your fields. Okay, everybody feel that? So what I have out here, you can't see what I have up front, so I'm going to explain it to you simply because of the dynamics of the way the room is set up. But several people asked me how I worked with the Veca codes. Well, I like to have fun when I play with the consciousness. So much to my husband's dismay, in 2006, I put all my Veca codes around the bed so that every time I went to bed, I would walk in my room and I would follow what I called the Veca code road. So I would start with the Biveka, knowing that that's the gateway through to the higher levels of consciousness. You can't work with the other Veca codes unless you embody the Biveka. So I start with the Biveka. So I like Mahadra-ról, and I move up to this one, Kira Shehasha. And I know that my Veca corresponds to my right foot, and the Kirashe corresponds to my left foot. So, you can kind of do like a little hopscotch, which is what I usually do. So it's Mahadra Mueva and then Kirashe Hasha, and I come to the Kuveka knowing that is for my Azure, also knowing that helps to release the Jehovian seals in the body. Remember, at the speed of thought, you can bring in these frequencies once you know what you're working with. And then I come to the Dadrueja, and I remember that's at my Yumbi, and I breathe the frequencies up. And then the tailbone, the Ra Ecka. And then, of course, the Akasha, the sixth chakra, the third eye. Then we come to the Iheya, and when I get to the Iheya, that's when I do the magic words of co-creation. So the whole time I'm thinking, I'm embodying all these frequencies, and I get up to number 6, I'm like, okay, now I can really work to embody them, because now I'm going to manifest that I'm embodying them, so I do that. And then I hop over to these two, which is the Liheya and the Ora Manu, and I sing the sonic Kemelohati. And then I hop up to these two, knowing that the Rusheya and the Thuna Manu represents the monadic code, so I bring those frequencies into my body. And then I go with the Shaheya, and I activate my lotus arcs. And then I have this one that I like that has the blank center, and I put everything that I've just gone through into the center there, and then I come to the Akasha. That's how I work with the frequencies, and you can do that, and it looks something like this. This is for comedy relief.
All right.
And then I'll do the sonic Kemelohati, and I'm not going to do that. And then the monadic code, and so forth. And what I would say is that for a long time I wouldn't do it, and I certainly don't like to sing in public. But what I would say is, we sound beautiful to them, right? No matter what we sound like, or what I sound like to you, or what you sound like to me, we sound beautiful to them because they have no judgment. Right?
But also, your whole beingness has a sound tone to it. So as you get more clear and you're using these, you're actually emitting these pure and emanating these pure sound tones that are part of the whole orchestra of the Source. And it was neat when she was doing the magic songs of co-creation, because it reminded me again, those bring down the primal currents, and those are all parts of our aspects of self. All those sound tones are bringing in the specific consciousness of the cosmic Kathara grid, and all the way up to where it connects up to God's Source. So you're actually bringing down all that frequency. Again, you're knocking at the door and saying, "Come play with me."
So when you go home tonight or after the workshop, and this is the way that I chose to co-create with them, I invite you to come up with a way to play with the consciousness of the codes. It doesn't always have to be the Vecas. You can do the archaic codes, the heliotography codes, any consciousness that you're drawn to work with, and just play with them. Because when you play, you experience joy in your body, right? And when you can't experience joy and hate at the same time. So I totally would go with the joy one.
And you could actually do it sort of like deal yourself a card that day, or pick a card, any card, and essentially play or be a companion with the consciousness of that specific code that day. And you can open yourself to manifesting divine right order in whatever way it appears through the consciousness, your co-creation with the consciousness of that code being.
And so after you've done all this, now it's time to sit within the stillness. So this is my choice to co-create with and manifest. Remember, I was working with manifesting, bringing in all these frequencies, and then I amplified the manifestation by doing the magic words of co-creation, and by adding it into the Akasha Ora Manu there, or the Ora Manu without the Akasha. And then I like to play with this one. This is called the Veca Mahadra. Okay? And what this is so many levels of consciousness, but it contains all the Veca codes within it. So it's a consolidated Veca code induction. So I've just gone through this whole process. And then what I like to do, and I invite you to do this, is to send a spark of consciousness into the center of the Veca Mahadra. And feel the frequencies within you around you. Feel them tickling your consciousness, inviting you to co-create. And maybe you just want to co-create stillness. Okay? And what you can do is you can expand your consciousness out along the lines of the consciousness of the code. And you can just expand further and further and further and reach out and touch the consciousness of Source.
What I like about this one is that it actually allows release of the Eucharista Amareya cosmic Christ flame. So when you use this code and you send your consciousness, you're actually inviting that cosmic Christ flame to come and co-create with you. And to be in that flame and the flame as you.
Isn't that absolutely beautiful? So, after you work with the Veca codes and you go through the Kathara 2-3 program, you can use this as a consolidated Veca code induction. And it activates a lot more than the Veca codes because there's a lot more frequency in there. Okay? So, go ahead.
You can use your consciousness and begin to make shifts in your daily life right now that will actually help the planetary shifts to happen. We have the ability to be a creative force in our own lives and influence what is happening on the planet. We are so powerful that we can actually make planetary shifts happen. So with that in mind, when you're listening to the news or you're watching the news, again, where are your thoughts? Are you saying, oh my God, look what's happening in that country? Oh, I wonder, and you start, because there is a consciousness on the planet that it's very it's very easy to find yourself in without knowing how you got there. And if you align your consciousness with the oh my God type, oh my God, why is that happening? Or oh my God, look at what's happening, as opposed to oh my God, come be with me as one now. There's a whole bitty difference. So really, it's back to mindfulness and thought intention, knowing that you are powerful beings, and what do you choose to create every day. Own the stuff that you don't like. There's all parts of us and things we do that we don't like. And part of consciousness, part of spiritual maturity is to take responsibility and accountability for what you've created. So, okay, I've done that. Own it. Yeah, I did that. And then you have the opportunity to transmute that, and then to let it go, and then to recreate a new image. I had a friend that I met with last weekend, and she had something happen in her life that she wasn't too happy about. She felt that there was something she needed to do, and she didn't do it. And I told her back about 20 years ago, back in about 1990, I had a friend, another friend that had a son, and they had some words with each other, and she felt like it really didn't play out like she had wanted to. And so I said, okay, if time and space, if there is really no time and space, then all you have to do is in your mind go and bring that image out of the archives and recreate it. So how would you have liked it? Like to have it happen? So go to that time space and recreate the play. Recreate it as you would have liked it to have happened. And what that will do will heal the energy around it. And if you do it with someone else, you may have two different ways of visualizing or imaging, because you're imaging in the concept of God. So each of you as a part of God's source is using your own images that mean something different to your own shields. But go to that time space, recreate it, redo the play, and have the outcome as you would have liked to have had it happen. And that will instantly change. You will now align that now point, that point in that time space, to Adashi turnaround, to the ascension spiral, the crystal spiral you're on now. Does that make sense to you? Okay.
You can also think of it as healing, releasing, and transmuting. Mm-hmm. I like to make little acronyms for myself. So heal, release, transmute. If something comes into my thought process that I don't want, first thing I say is heal, release, transmute. Of course, you own it, obviously, by recognizing that it's there and wanting to heal, release, and transmute it.
And as part of this, again, it's in order to do this, it's when you speak, what are the words that you're creating? So when you recreate a new image, make sure you don't decreate it. And so in the moment of if those lesson thoughts is go back to the focus of the divine self, of the divine right order that you just created. Mm-hmm. Christic consciousness or non-Christic consciousness. That's all about choices. Speaker 3 said that choice is just one step away. You go down the pathway and you make those lateral choices, or sometimes even backward choices. And the whole thing is to get back on. And it takes focus. Do we let ourselves get distracted? Or do we keep our that inner focus on what we want to do, on where we want to go, who we want to be, which in my opinion is, for myself, is the greatest self, is to remember who I really am in all my totality and all my glory and all my sound, light, sparklies, everything. But it takes courage. It can feel. We're feeling beings, and we still have distortions, and so we'll get energy and frequency that comes in that causes us to feel that fear, that causes us to feel less than, and the whole thing is then to go ahead anyway. I used to be scared of water. There was something about that when I got in water, I felt claustrophobic. And so I determined that when you let yourself get into fear, or if there's something fear, it becomes really bigger because you're creating it to be something big. And that I could either walk through the fear and reclaim my divine self, or I could remain crippled by it. And so what I did was, I think it was in St. Kitts, we went snorkeling. And so I got into the water with a snorkel, and I put my head down and I started hyperventilating, and I was just telling myself, okay, breathe. And it took me about half an hour, and finally I was able to put my head in the water and say, oh wow, look at all this life down here. So the whole thing is to, if something comes up that you fear, or something that comes up that you think is a challenge and too big to handle, step back, take a breath, and understand that you have the power to walk through anything. And take that step, and you'll find it was just stuck energy. It was just stuck energy. And that's where you as a conscious being can become, as you expand within the consciousness of your pillar, become God consciousness, this I am. You remind yourself that the Christ eternal here endures. That nothing, that no thing and nobody can overcome you. Because you are God's self, this I am. And that's where the commitment. Are you committed to that? Are you committed to remaining on the path of Christic consciousness? And are you willing to every day to slow down, to spend time with your eternal self, to breathe in, to start looking at life? When you go out tonight, the wall is consciousness. The chair is consciousness. I remember someone telling me that inanimate objects didn't have an aura, but yet when I saw things, I could see this energy about it. And so when I came into Kalantic science and found out that everything is conscious and everything is consciousness, because it's all consciousness. Everything, consciousness has a construct and structure has consciousness. So it's all the same. And so start looking at the curtains are consciousness, the bed's consciousness. Hello, bed. Thank you so much for supporting me at night. Start having that gratitude. Start having that and appreciate. And you'll find that the joy is there all along because everything wants to co-create with you because all is consciousness. every day, you have the choice of reaching for the stars or letting yourself be caught down. So go ahead and reach for the stars. Those moment-by-moment decisions either support you or take you away from your Christic alignment. So reach for the stars. And that's because that's where we're going. We're star beings. We're Christic cells. And we're going on the path of Adashi return. Isn't this great? The consciousness is the stuff that you surround yourself with. Take a look at your house. How long have you had things on your refrigerator? You know? What is the consciousness of the chair? You know, have you bought... I, along with probably a lot of you, have bought things at secondhand shops, at antique shops. What is the consciousness that's being held within that? Have you gone around and felt the consciousness of everything, the chairs, the rugs, the walls, the pictures, the fireplace, to find out whether it would like the frequency of the Christic alignment? And offer that. And you can offer that individually, or you can do it by breathing in the codes, or asking its permission, breathing in the codes, and send the codes down to God, to Earth the Core, breathe it in again, send any of the codes up to God's source, and then take a code and breathe it in and surround not just yourself, but your whole place, so that it can start working the codes and the consciousness. The codes can actually start co-creating with the consciousness of what's around you. And you want to put the codes that stay into shiny places, because shiny places like mirrors and things can actually act as portals because of the refraction of light. And pictures. I went home one time and I decided to look at my pictures. And lo and behold, this one, what I thought was a beautiful picture, I had called it the unfolding. Had been done by a friend of mine from a long time ago. And all of a sudden, it looked like a fish with these bulbous eyes were coming out. And I looked at it and said, "Oh my God!" So I started, "Oh my God, Source Unisi, yes." And so I took it and I tore up the picture and put it in the trash. The thing is that whether it's music, whether it's pictures, that they all. Everything we create, in order to bring through that creation, we have to align ourselves with a level of consciousness or a dimension of consciousness. And so wherever our consciousness is at that moment of creation is what you have just built a portal to, or a connection, a bridge to. So pictures can actually be like the front cover of Voyagers. She brought that through on a six-dimensional level of frequency.
She meaning speaker one. Speaker one,
thank you. And so look at what you have in your house, and if in a lot of times inherently, because you might have put it away, you might have put some stuff away in a closet or storage, and because it might be old energy, it might be connecting you to a different rotation of particle spin. And do you really want that in your space?
Right.
Because it makes it harder when you have dueling energies in your home space. So take a look and feel that.
You can think of it as you walk through your home, that, as Mel was saying, everything has a core energetic signature. It's called an encryption. So as you walk through your home, maybe close your eyes and start to sense and feel what that encryption is. Does it resonate with you? If it doesn't resonate with you, give it to someone who resonates with it. Do whatever you want to do with it. And start filling your space with things that you resonate with, things that are going to remind you of what your goal in life is. Mm-hmm. You know, personally, I want to embody... I choose to embody my ultimate self, whatever that is. Yeah. And so if I have something in my home that I am not resonating with, I am going to give it a new home, whatever that is.
And there may be some of you that say, well, let me put frequency in it. Ask its permission first. It's a consciousness. And so let's say you have a vase and you would like to put your hands on and send Chris frequency, ask his permission. Maybe it doesn't want. Maybe it's supposed to go to somewhere else that would support someone that is taking a different path.
So, Source gave you the power. Power you have the right to use. And why is that? Because we are faces of the consciousness of Source. And Source is such a loving being that it gave the ability to the beings that it created to have that power to create for themselves. And the only thing that we are asked, and not that this is something that we absolutely have to do because we have free will choice, is that it be used in the name of the Christ. When you are talking about stepping into the next level of consciousness, into a higher level of consciousness, this is something that I personally choose to do, is the power that has been given to me by Source is to use it in the name of the Christ. And how do we do that? We work with embodying the attitudes and the responsibilities of mastery. I remember once I was speaking to Speaker 3, and I basically said, hey, Mac, what would happen if we never had the A&Rs? Boy, the answer was like, we would be in a lot of trouble. Because the A&Rs are a way of being, a way of living, a way of understanding energetic communication with another being. And it's actually one of the ways that I used to work with them is I'd go to bed at night and, well, perhaps I hadn't had the best conversation with somebody, and I knew that I could have done better. And I would ask in my dream state to be shown how I could have been a better person, how I could have been more Christic in my response. And this is one way that it began working with me, was in the dream state. And then I started having it in my face. My daughter would say something like, well, that wasn't very Christic now, was it? Well, smack. And I'd have to step back and go, no, it was not. You're right. Thank you for calling me on that. And I'd have to go back to my room, into my own little space, and go, how could I have done that better? Because it was recognized by somebody outside of me who was my symbol to tell me I wasn't embodying that A&R. So anyway, use it in the name of the Christ. Back to the hot tour. All right, so we are on invincible. We talked about the Christ as being invincible. So again, I'm going to ask you to take a moment, look into the eyes of the Hatur. What is the consciousness behind those eyes telling you about your own invincibility? And just take a moment, think about it. Look into the loving eyes of the Hatur. And we'll say the command again. We'll say it 3 times. Again, it's Vyeyan Kumna, Eyahujwen Hatur. Okay?
Vyeyan Kumna, Eyahujwen Hatur.
Vyeyan Kumna, Eyahujwen Hatur. Vyeyan Kumna, Eyahujwen Hatur. Take a moment and breathe that in. Remembering that the Hatur are the representatives from the hub domains in our Veca, the inner core domains. And they bring those frequencies, and they are asking us to embody these qualities.
So go ahead and take your spark of consciousness, send it into the code, and expand on all levels. And then bring
Expander
that
gates.
code. Yes, expand gates.
Expander gates is what I like to call them. Because you expand your consciousness into the spanner gates.
And when you do this, you're actually using your mind to direct energy with reverence to Source and in divine right order. So when you direct it, like we're doing into the code and bringing that back and expanding it within you and as you become and are in that moment divine right order itself. Because when you are aligned with Source, you are divine right order.
If we open to our eternal self, we become directors of our own destiny. So just take a moment and think to yourself what it is that you choose to create as a co-creator of your own destiny. What is it that you want to experience? And remember that every thought you have creates. So you walk into your thoughts every day. Think about the expansion of consciousness. Think about being a spark of light within the great fields of the Age, the God Source consciousness fields. And remember that you can co-create your own destiny, whatever that is.
And these are all LTRs that we have. A lot of them are in the songbooks. And what they help you do is actually direct your thoughts that actually help create biochemical changes in your body. It helps you, essentially by doing that, it helps you generate fearlessness as opposed to fear. And that all comes down to freedom, which is being able to fully embody that presence as you, the part of you that never left God. So all these LTRs, I am one with cosmic mind. I am a child of the original one. I am free. So all you have to do is command it here, and you'll progressively help the body to open the DNA template to allow it to come through. And you can command it here. You know, come, open the doorways. I am a child of the original one. So she talks about commanding being that loving intention. I am a child of the original one. Not I am a child of the original one, but I am. I am one. I am this, I am. So the moment you say I am, you are stepping fully and into the power of your Christic consciousness. You are saying I am God's self, this I am. So say that. I am God's self, this I am.
I am God's self, this
Okay.
I am.
Say I am.
I am.
I am my God self.
I am my God self.
This I am.
This I am.
Ta Asian Dodore.
And as I decree it, so it is. So, Christic awareness. Christic guardians are fully aware of their fields. How many people can say that you're fully aware of your fields at all times? I can't. Not yet, exactly. They know themselves as orb, as cloud, as a consciousness that can move itself anywhere in time to understand anything. Sounds pretty nice, doesn't it? They know themselves as one with the universal, unified field. So they don't feel themselves as a three-dimensional being here thinking limited thoughts, right? They are very expanded. They are one with the universal, unified field all around them. And so once again, we come back to the Hathor, okay? We're talking about enigmatic. What does enigmatic mean to you? Does anybody want to share? Okay, I'll share.
We looked it up in the dictionary.
That's fine. It's one that I've had my own personal challenges with. You know, I'm okay with, being aware and loving and invincible and noble, but boy, I had a challenge with that enigmatic. And so I think what it means is mysterious. And it may mean something different to you, but that's what it means to me. So, beg your pardon? Discernment.
Discernment's a good one.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's a really good one.
Because I was thinking of that when I had that taxi driver and I chose just to be quiet and be presence itself, so that you listen and you allow.
And what was said, for those of you who couldn't hear in the back, was she said discernment was how she feels enigmatic.
Yeah.
Does anybody else want to share how they feel it?
I don't know. I kind of thought like the other root word of it is
Enigma.
right, like enigmatic. I kind of got a sense of magnetizing euphoria.
So up here in the front row, she feels that being enigmatic is magnetizing euphoria.
Like their presence.
The presence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like if you walk into a room,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's very noticeable, very present.
Okay. Wonderful. So what we'll do is we'll take a couple of those ideas, and you may have ideas of your own that you didn't share, and that's absolutely fine.
When you said mysterious, I was thinking, we talk sometimes about God's source being the great mystery. And so maybe also, because I think we all come from, there's 12 subharmonics. I mean, there's a different level, I think, different levels of what each of something means, and we come into a greater sense. But when she said mysterious, I was just thinking about the great mystery, and how in the old days we would look for God's source, sort of like in mystery schools, because it was something we didn't have the tools to know God. And God was something out here, and so it was a mystery that we are now unfolding within, because we're learning that the mystery is within us, that we are God's source.
That's a good one.
I don't know what I said, but
Okay.
but that was
All right. Awe-inspiring. Absolutely. Always something more to be discovered.
Oh, I like that.
Wonderful. So let's take some of those ideas and just, again, look into the consciousness of the Hathur and just feel what it's telling you about the word that we've been discovering, enigmatic. And we'll repeat the sound tones again.
Veyan
Kumna Eahujwen Hathur. Veyan Kumna Eahujwen Hathur. Veyan Kumna Eahujwen Hathur. Oops, that was the surprise. Okay, so this is my animation for explaining orb. So we breathe ourselves out into the wholeness of self. We transcend singular focus of identity, so we think of ourselves as a more multidimensional identity, which in truth we are. And we expand our mind and our consciousness to feel all that we are. Okay, so now you get to see the animation again. And so it's just expand your consciousness and your mind.
Take the breath into your Azure, and as you breathe it out, imagine that orb is expanding out you as orb. Because Ashana says when we go to other time space, that they see us as orb. And when we see the guardians, we see them as orb. So go ahead and expand again out into orbit and be as orb, and feel that consciousness of that orb. Sense, feel.
And feel what's inside your orb. Feel if there's any information waiting for you. Perhaps you need to expand out a little bit more to pick up that information than you're used to expanding.
And that's a great idea, because sometimes we forget that frequency is consciousness, and consciousness is frequency, and frequency is information.
So take a moment and see if there's any little information packets for you out in your orb. And breathe them back in. And just gently exhale. And this is from St. Kitts. I am orb, expand the definition of I am self to include. And we'll do this together. Okay? On 3.
1, 2, 3. I am the air around me. I am the atoms of my physical body. I am the ground beneath my feet. I am the clouds above my head. I am the sun. I am the wind. I am the stars. I am the rain. I am the light. I am the sound. I am the voice of the universal song. I am the whisper of the breath of God within me. I am this I am. I am this too.
I am this all. Just breathe it in. Just an example of a few things that you can find out in your orb.
Send your consciousness now into the code and bring that, expand out into the code and bring back the information and the consciousness and all the beauty of it into your physical self. And then expand out into your field so that you're completely, the code's within you, but it's completely surrounds you and adds you. The unicide. We talk about the unicide being the point of God's source. And that's what this code is, unicide code. Honor and embrace the living God source within you fearlessly. Because when you're as orb, when you're as unicide, when you're as any of the Christic code beings, you are aligned with God's source, which leaves no room for fear, and you become fearlessness itself. Stand in your power. Now this is what I want you to do, if you choose, is get a sense of you as your orb and go and embrace or meet the trees. These are the sequoias that are over 1,000 years old. And so go ahead and just think of communing with the consciousness of something here on this earth that is so ancient and has lessons.
That's still standing.
And that's still standing. And say hello to that consciousness. And just give it the gift of your presence and then come back into your body here. So just take a few seconds. Stand in your power. And get a sense when you're talking to the trees of feeling that your feet, that there are roots that go down into the ground and have been here since ancient times, and that your arms and your hair and your head reaching up towards God's source, and you're standing tall and strong in your power. And the wind comes through your hair, through the leaves, through your arms, which are the limbs. And just breathe that in. And then come back here. The now point. I had a dream years ago, and I woke up, and in the dream state, just before I woke up, it was like I saw this clock, and I was asking, well, what time is it? And no matter whether I looked at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, it always said now. Yeah. If you focus on the past, where your focus is, where your energy goes. Do you really want to send your energy to the past or to the future? When the whole point is bringing everything together to the now point. That's where your power is in the now point. And that's what the power of now is. So what time is it? It's now.
And when you look at this image and you see the Ora Manu in there, it's magnifying and amplifying the power of the now moment.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, as the beginning, all things exist within the one, as expressions of the one, and all things return unto the one. The only difference being the quality of the experiential path by which one chooses to come home. So again, encryption, right? Most people know this is the Kathara grid, am I right? So it's the Christ code. It carries the base 12 encryption, and everything on the planet is based upon the Kathara grid.
And have you ever thought of starting at the 12th point and sending your frequency, sending your spark of consciousness into the Kathara point and expanding yourself and feeling what is the Kathara consciousness at that point. And then go down to the 11th. What is, so you can explore not only what we would call the Kathara grid, but it's you're exploring. It's your core template. And so have you ever thought of what is the consciousness, and can I align myself with the consciousness of my own core template? Instead of being separate, thinking yourselves as separate and in pieces,
Right.
who are you as a totality of wholeness?
You can also use this image, if you choose in meditation, to recognize that these lines that exist between the Kathara centers represents lines of consciousness. Okay, so for instance, you have your mental body here, and you have your astral body here, so you could travel, you can bring information from the dream state through the astral into the mental body by clearing those consciousness lines. So they're tunnels, they're pathways for you to explore different levels of consciousness within your own template. So this whole presentation has been, throughout the years we've offered modules explaining how things are done, how to do them, where to do them, what colors to run, what frequencies to run, where to run them, and all that. Am I right? So what this presentation was more about was we're entering a state where, on the planetary level, where we personally believe, Mel and I, that we're being asked to become. We're not becoming anymore. We are being who we are. So becoming more of who we are, expanding into that knowing and feeling our own inner divine in all moments. And I know that's not easy to do all the time, but the more that we work through it, the more we work with the attitudes, the more we work with the responsibilities, the more we co-create with the consciousness of the codes and play and have fun, the more we can embody, the more we can become who we truly are, which are planetary stewards, the more we can fulfill our contract. Okay?
And at any moment in time, because we spend a lot of time in becoming, is take some time to be with your eternal self so that at that moment you are not only becoming, but you are being who you are, the greatest you can be at any moment of time. And when you align and with the greatest sense of being you can be at any moment of time, then that allows the gateways to open for more to come in.
Clearing space for source.
Clearing space for source.
Remember, what is your mind full of, right? Mindful is a very interesting word because if you have a house and your house is full of all kinds of things. I have children, so my house is full of a lot. But if you have a house and you want to bring more stuff in, what do you have to do? You have to move stuff out in order to get newer stuff in. And that's kind of what we do with the freedom teachings is we clear our templates in order to bring in more of the higher consciousness. And again, as I said earlier, taking time and clearing space for source daily or however often you want to do it is a really, really good way of activating and stepping into that next level of consciousness that's available at each workshop that's offered by the speakers, right? So again, it's all about being the teachings in every way, every day, as best we can. So we're on the last one of the Hatur, and this one is noble. So we're going to ask you to once again look into the eyes of the Hatur and just see what the consciousness behind those eyes would like to co-create with you about being noble. What does that mean to you? Feel the whiskers again. Feel the whiskers tickle your consciousness.
Because we've heard a lot, in histories and stuff about, in 3D history, about the nobility. But really, what's the consciousness, the sense consciousness? Feel the consciousness behind the words. Feel what the consciousness behind the word of noble is. And share with us, what comes through for you, what you're nudged as to what really noble means.
I would say you represent the A's and R's. You are the living embodiment of it.
You are the living embodiment of the A and R's. Okay. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Highest possible frequency and highest possible attainment. Okay. Wonderful. Anyone else?
Strength or strong and
Strength. Okay.
and also responsible.
Responsible. Okay. Anyone else? See, there really is no wrong answer, right? Because it's what you're being shown by the consciousness of the Hathor.
There's a lot of dignity,
Dignity.
Oh, yes.
especially as
Yes.
dependent on us, basically.
Yes. Okay. That's good. Anyone else? Okay.
I like what Tessie said about dignity, because Ash talks about dignity in one of the workshops, and it's like she says, no one can take away that dignity and approach life with dignity. And I think that when you see people out in the 3D world and you say, boy, that person has dignity, and what you're really saying sometimes, or from my perception, is that that person has respect for the God source within them, and they're going to come from that space, and you carry yourself in a certain way that we name as dignity and as a noble bearing, because you respect yourself, you have self-love, self-respect, and then you bring that forth into life with you.
So we'll once again take all those concepts plus your own, and we'll repeat this 3 times. Okay? Ready?
Veyan kumna ehujuen hatur. Veyan kumna ehujuen hatur. Veyan kumna ehujuen hatur. Celebrate. Celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. We continue onward, upward, homeward, Godward, fearless eternally. Celebrate. Sometimes we forget to do that, don't we? It's all part of that joy about celebrating ourselves at any moment of time, and celebrating ourselves because we've come this far. Celebrating ourselves because we are here generating power and being powerful in the name of the Christ. So this is our contract, to hold and run as much frequency as possible. And by doing that, we hold the door of consciousness open that all may enter.
All right. So there's a choice in the making. We've run over time. I think it's about probably 9:30. We can stay, if you so choose, and we can do the Crystal River, and we can create a Christ Star Amareya crystal temple together, or we can end the session. What is the vote here?
Crystal repair.
Is that okay? Okay. All right, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so can everybody read the screen? Okay. Now, I understand there's a couple of new people here. Have you been introduced to the Crystal River Prayer? Okay, what I would ask for you to do is to follow along as best you can. And then perhaps after class, we'll show you where you can find the Crystal River Prayer on the website. Okay? And then it's what we do. It's beautiful. You'll love it. Trust me.
We're actually calling on the aspects of us at all these different levels of consciousness to come in and co-create with us.
Right.
And then we actually call on the elements to come in, the not just the 3D elements, but actually the commands, like the flame command and the wind command to come in and co-create with us in a Christic manner. And then we allow anything that's not Christic to leave, and we're here as an offering of Christic frequency and a pillar of sound light to host out any frequencies here that want to.
All right.
And then we do it all in the name of the Christ and in reverence to divine right order.
And when we get to the part in part 2 where it says we now command with the entrusted powers of aurora light, we now invoke the eternal Christ, its Son, to co-create, release, and renew this place. We'll just say this place and we'll continue on so we don't drop the BPR. I know some people like to go this place and then they start thinking about all kinds of other things. I do it myself. But in a group environment, let's just maintain it, so we'll just go right through, okay? All right, so does anybody want to take a stretch break? No? You don't? You want to get up in your chair and stretch? No? Okay. All right.
Okay. Yeah, we're on the home stretch now. Yes. I can feel the frequencies of us all going to building that Christ our vehicle.
All right, so this is the Aquarian Crystal River prayer and invocation for Crystal River activation and amplification. All right, are we ready?
1, 2, 3.
Diva
enture ista entao, rihavea un cristallo, iraho etena have, etutore in chahe, nuvoeto in taro, siva glene urtu in hale, dehi diva asahaso, enduetra donaqueri, dehi urto tradila, urantaro de natur, cusa ego dureteta, enta unum cristale, cusa ego dureteta aquias, cusa ego dureteta aquafari, cusa ego dureteta aquari, cusa ego dureteta hatur, cusa ego dureteta adone, Kumsa ego dureteta iane. Kumsa ego dureteta iani maahuete. Kumsa ego dureteta usha lezundu rosete. Kumsa ego dureteta mashaya hana aquian. Kumsa ego dureteta utorore. Bendi duro ameja utorore aquian. Bendi hale ishanua utarore aquian. Bendi rame rafa gentu utarore aquian. Bring forth now the crystal river of eternal first creation. Bring forth now the healing waters of the Idan Sumshadi. Bring forth now the gentle wind song of the sacred unison. Bring forth here the radiant starlight of the eternally starborn. Let the crystal river flow unto my doorstep. Let the crystal river cleanse and heal my soul. May the crystal river love song all embracing emerge now from my Christed crystal core to softly call me home. Diva enture ista endao, rihavea un cristallo. Diva enture ista endao, rihavea un cristallo. Diva enture ista endao, rihavea un cristallo. Ashalunta ekasha dur, ashalunta ekasha dur, ashalunta ekasha dur. Ready? Riavea un cristallo, elementai and evocai. The crystal river elemental command invocation for Christiac sanctification and salvage right of reclamation. In the name of the Messiah Council of Aquarian, in the name of the Melchizedek Cloister Emerald Order, Holy Order of the Unisai, Sacred House of One, in the name of the Councils of Cristale, in the name of the Councils of Crystal River, in the name of the Councils of Aurora, we call upon the Christiac powers of the Sha'eda Amur. We call upon the Christiac powers of the Ja'et Edura. We call upon the Christiac powers of the Aquel. We call upon the Christiac powers of the Etalea Cristale. We call upon the Christiac powers of the Ita or Chalet. We now command with the entrusted powers of Aurora Light. We now invoke the eternal Christed Son to co-create, release, and renew this place. We now declare in eternal sanctification this place, this land, and all within into the Christiac protection here in Set. That the spirit of Earthasala rise, the power of Earthasala heal, and the wisdom of Earthasala here within preside. In the name of the eternal Christ of first creation, and by the divine vehicle of the Rihabea un Cristalo. In co-creative Christ embrace, with absolute humility, absolute love, and absolute forgiving, and only in absolute service to the eternal Christ, and its ever-loving, healing devotion to all life everywhere, we banish now from this sacred place all that is unwilling to receive the absolute cleansing of the Christale within the covenants of divine right order and divine right timing, as only eternal God source can know. In loving Christiac service, we offer release and host arrangement to all those present who are in need and seek to heal within the sacred cleansing fields of Earthasala and the eternal divine flows of the Rihabea un Cristalo. In Christiac reverence, joy, and gratitude for the unceasing love and mercy of the one source most divine, we end now and complete this Christiac sanctification and salvage rite of reclamation. In the name of the one true source God eternal, in the name of the Christ divine, in the name of the Rihabea un Cristalo, in the name of the Mashayalana Council of Aquarian, in the name of the Councils of Cristale, in the name of the Councils of Crystal River, in the name of the Councils of Aurora, in the name of the Melchizedek Cloister, Emerald Order, Holy Order of the Unified, Sacred House of One, and in the name of the eternally Christiac, I am this I am. Ta'esha intadoe, Ta'esha intadoe, Ta'esha intadoe. Sorry. So now we'll do 3 rounds of the Song of Aurora. 1, 2,
We'll start out slow and then we'll get fast.
Bitu eteta ete, janate ueta e. Bitu eteta ete, ishanu enashale. Ishmata elente durete, disala ente shadure. Sanuen le taluja ente utalei. Nita blembe sunuake. Faster. Built a sitting seer, a pillar where everybody sits. Ashalum ta akasha de. Let's seal it. Ashalum ta akasha de. Ashalum ta akasha de. Ashalum ta akasha de.
That was awesome.
And one of the things that's neat about when you work with consciousness is that wherever you go, that's where you are. And what I really like about the Mahayana baptismal rite here is that we build crystal pillars. And it only takes a few seconds, really, to do it. Let's say 3 minutes. So on the bus, in the subway, in the park, in a boat. I can do it on a boat. I can do it on a goat. I can do it, you know. That's the Mahayanic level of Dr. Seuss, you know. And so the thing is that what, you know, people say, what can I do in service? But they don't have a lot of time. Well, this is a great way to have in your toolbox as an active tool of service, is wherever you go. You know, take a few minutes wherever you go, when you're here at your destination, when you're wherever you are, and do this, and then you're leaving a crystal temple.
With permission from the space.
With permission from the grid you're on and the space you're at. And if the space says yes, then what you're doing there is actually it's like a hosting spot, a hosting platform you're leaving for the indigos out there to find. That maybe there's no one, no KS or anything living in the area. So how can they perhaps have a lift to help them to their next level? Is the crystal temple. So you can do it as a service. And like Pammy says, it's always good to, as part of the spiritual integrity, to always ask the consciousness of the grid you're on, or the consciousness of the subway seat I'm sitting on, or to ask permission and say, is this okay? Can I do this? And then you're co-creating with that portion of consciousness. You're creating with your level of the Mahayana, which is your ascended master level, and you're creating with that level with the consciousness. You're co-creating of that location, of that place, of that. I hate to use the word thing, but that.
Adashi, depth level.
Yes, with that being. Thank you so much. With that being. Okay.
Okay. So we're going to repeat this together. Okay. On 3.
1, 2, 3. By the love of eternal Christ I am. By the truth of eternal Christ I stand. By the power of eternal Christ I fly. By the way of eternal Christ go I. By the grace of eternal Christ I now sanctify and renew this place. And decree this area and being as under the divine protectorate of the Mahayana Master Council of Aquarian. In the name of the Crystal River host and the eternal God source of first eternal life creation. Ta Asia into Dore. Ta Asia into Dore. Ta Asia into Dore.
Okay, we've got one more thing to do. We are going to connect to Ameya-san through the Iluri Rashatan code. So how this is stated, can everybody see this? Yeah. Yes? No? If you can't see it, if you want to join in, come on up front. Okay, so it's pronounced abreante, esiwaru, eleshaen, saetavu, dalantila, ure humka, dae shiwa, jaentu, elise ha. And so we'll say that 3 times together, and then we will inhale into our Ezere. We will send it down to Ameya-san. Let's feel the frequencies for a little bit there, and then we'll bring it up to our Ezere, and we'll exhale it out. Okay? Does that sound good? Okay. All right. So when we exhale out the Ezere, we're going to do it 12 points.
Right. And you can imagine it as being real shiny and reflective, like a mirror. So it becomes like a mirror ball that has all the love consciousness of the Alareya Rashatani.
Okay. All right. Is everybody ready? Yeah. Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Abreonte esiwaru alesha em saetavu dalantila ore humka dae shiwa jaentu alise ha. Abreonte esiwaru elesha en saetavu dalantila ore hunka dae shiwa jaentu alise ha. Abreonte esiwaru elesha en saetavu dalantila ore hunka dae shiwa jaentu alise ha.
Inhale into the Ezere. Exhale down to Ameya-san, Earth Core. Feel the frequencies. And when you're ready, inhale up. And exhale, 12 point. Exhale. Yes. So we would like to thank you for co-creating with us this evening. It was a lot of fun.
If you take a moment and in your handout there is a feedback form, if you could go ahead and fill that out and give it either to Pammy or I, and Pammy will compile them and give them to Speaker 3. And it will allow us to know what you liked about it, what you would like to see us offer in the future. And as ever, the Christos in us salutes the Christos in you, and know we are all one. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming. Thank you very much.